The country that we're most closely allied with has no resources. It has 9 million people. It is a completely insignificant country in the Levant. I'm speaking of Israel. It is an insignificant country from an American point of view. The only reason Israel is significant is because we provide a security guarantee.
Why Americans, or if you feel Americans have many misconceptions about this part of the world?
Well, because, most people, not just Americans, but most people haven't been here. I mean, that's always the number one source of misconception, is lack of experience, direct experience. And so I'm so blessed by my job that I can travel, but I've traveled my whole life to places. I'm convinced that it's hard to really know what you're talking about unless you see it. And even then, it's hard to know. You don't speak the language. You're not from there. But you definitely don't have a sense of a place unless you visit it. So that's the main reason. And then there are, of course, lots of propaganda efforts going on designed to influence the direction of the U.S. government and the use of military force. And so there are sophisticated propaganda operations going on in Washington full-time, come from a lot of different sources. So those are the reasons.
And in terms of the propaganda that you mentioned, do you think things are changing now? There's been talk of this shift away in American politics from a kind of unquestioning support for Israel. This has been a very difficult year, another very harrowing, difficult year in the region, not just in Gaza, but many other countries, Syria, Lebanon, escalation between Iran and Israel. What is your reading of all of this and Washington's kind of approach right now?
Well, the U.S., I'm speaking as an American who's from Washington. America should never pledge its support to any other country unconditionally. And that would go for the countries of my ancestors, Great Britain, Sweden, Finland. And it would go for Israel, Qatar, Saudi, UAE. And there is no country in the world to which the United States owes its unconditional support. That's crazy. The people who run the United States pledge their unconditional support only to American citizens and their voters. That's our system.
But yeah, so as you say, it's about accountability to the voters. But has something shifted in the last couple of years amongst their voters? Is there is the kind of consciousness being raised in a way? Are there conversations happening with regards to the Palestinians and maybe even other issues in the region that were not happening 5 or 10 years ago?
Look, whenever the U.S. government acts on behalf of anyone other than American citizens, it is committing a moral crime. It is undermining the American system, which again is designed for one purpose, and that's to represent American citizens. It's self-government. It's a democratic republic. That's our system. If you want to change the system and make it into some sort of autocracy that acts on behalf of another country, okay, change the system. But under our current system, it is immoral and illegal to act on behalf of another country over and above your country, period. So it's a foundational question. It's the foundational question. And that only happens when people don't know it's happening and aren't allowed to talk about it happening. And now people are talking about it. And of course, the beneficiaries of our current perversion don't want to allow that conversation. But we have free speech in the United States. So what you're seeing is people exercising their free speech, and you're seeing a debate that is long overdue. And if there's another side to it, if you think that the point of the U.S. government is to serve a foreign country, tell me how.
Can I ask you, if the conversation was long overdue, why is it only happening now?
People can only be led into an arrangement that acts against their own interests if they don't know it's happening or they're not permitted to notice it. Once they know it's happening and they're allowed to talk about it, it ends. It's literally that simple. So it's all about, are you allowed to say the obvious? And Americans, for a bunch of different reasons, using a bunch of different mechanisms, have not been allowed to do that. Now they are. I would give a lot of the credit to Elon Musk for buying and opening up Twitter, which he renamed X, and all of a sudden there's a vigorous conversation about obvious things. Once that happens, there's no stopping it. And where we're going to arrive at some point, I think soon, is at the core promise of our existing system, which is the U.S. government is here to serve American citizens first and foremost. Sorry. Yeah, there's no stopping that. And there's no counter argument. So it's If you say that, we'll shut you down, we'll silence you, we'll slander you, we'll shoot you. Making physical threats against people who are telling obvious truths. They are doing that a lot, including to me.
Do you feel you made quite a few trips here, but has something changed in the way you feel in the last couple of years? Do you feel
I feel
safe?
that I'm 56, my children are grown. I have an obligation from my perspective to tell the truth. In decency and kindness, by the way. Telling the truth does not mean attacking people or pointing out their obvious sins. No, telling the truth means telling the truth in love. What do you think is true? By the way, I've been wrong many times. I supported the Iraq War, okay? I've been wrong. And I know that I've been wrong, and I know that I will be wrong again. So I'm not claiming I have a monopoly on the truth. What I'm saying is, as an American citizen, I have a right to say what I think, and I'm going to. Period.
How could this fight to reshape the American right possibly define how the U.S. engages with the Middle East? Could it potentially change everything?
The President of the United States recently sided in public with an Arab country over Israel. Israel bombed Doha. Qatar is one of our most important allies in the region. Our largest airbase is in this country, Qatar. Qatar hosts Hamas at the request of the United States government and the Israeli government for more than 10 years. And Israel bombed a meeting here in Qatar in order to short-circuit Donald Trump's peace process. This was an attack not just on Qatar, but on America. Donald Trump saw it that way. He said he saw it that way, and he forced the Israelis to apologize to the government of Qatar. Nothing like that has ever happened. There's never been a situation where the U.S. president publicly took the side of an Arab country over Israel. That just happened. That is a huge change. That is a seminal change. What are its long-term effects? I can only guess, but we've never seen that before.
And what about countries in the region? Just one final question. What about countries in the region? How might this shift in American politics possibly change the way that they engage? Could there be a rare opportunity for them to engage in a way that they haven't in this changing landscape?
I can't speak for any GCC government. I am an American, and so I will explain what I believe is the American perspective, which is we align with countries that share our values, but mostly we align with countries that have some strategic benefit to us. And this is a resource-dense part of the world. Energy is essential for civilization. And the country that we're most closely allied with has no resources. It has 9 million people. It is a completely insignificant country in the Levant. I'm speaking of Israel. It is an insignificant country from an American point of view. The only reason Israel is significant is because we provide a security guarantee. We have to defend Israel because I'm not sure why. We have no moral obligation to defend Israel whatsoever. And there's no American interest inherent in Israel. They're the holy sites, which are great. And I think the world should be allowed access to them, to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, to the Church of the Nativity, and to Al-Aqsa Mosque and to the wall. But as a nation, as a secular nation, there is no overridingly value strategic interest in Israel for the United States. Like, what are we getting out of this? Nothing. It's only cost. Whereas, for example, the 6 GCC nations, there's a very obvious benefit to the United States. So, of course, we should be closely allied with all 6 of these countries. And I know that they're constantly fighting with each other. But again, I'm an American looking at it from an American perspective. Those are very important relationships. Much more important than our relationship with Israel. Much more important. If you were to assess what's in America's interest, purely that way, like we're gonna have relationships with other countries based on what's good for us. You would rate your relationship with Qatar, for example, as infinitely more important than your relationship with Israel. Infinitely more important. Now, there are a lot of people dedicated to lying about that. That's not true. They share our values. No. Qatar is a much more important relationship than our relationship with Israel. And I think that's starting to dawn on people. Why are we spending billions of dollars destroying our credibility, paying for the murder of children? Like, how is that good for us? I guess it's good for Bibi. Okay. But it's not good for us. And everyone knows it's not good for us. And only when they stick a gun in your face and tell you to shut up are you going to pretend that it's good for you. But if you're allowed to think for yourself, you realize that is not good. Period.